Our second panel shines a light on how arts, culture, and tourism sectors can work together regionally to drive growth and resilience, especially in the face of economic and funding challenges. Please welcome our next panelist here, moderated by Rufus and Rham.
Thank you, everybody. So I have an icebreaker question for our panel. My name's Rufus and Rham. I'm the Interim Executive Director of Connecticut Arts Alliance. We're a statewide arts, culture, and creative economy advocacy group. I've been doing arts advocacy in Connecticut for 7-8 years now. So the icebreaker question that I'm going to ask our panelists, and I will answer first to give you time to think about it, is what was the last creative thing you did or experienced in Connecticut? And mine was last Saturday. We hosted a film event in Canaan, Connecticut, North Canaan, Connecticut, not New Canaan, Connecticut. And it was Kicking and Screaming, the 1995 Gen X classic. We had Chris Eichman, one of the actors from the film there, and then we partnered with the local restaurant. We had themed craft cocktails. We had a local musician from Norfolk, and we had a local artist do a commemorative poster, and we had about 85, 90 people there, which is not bad for North Canaan, Connecticut. So that's mine, and so I'm going to pass it off to Taneisha Duggan, who's going to introduce herself. What do you do, and then what was the last creative thing that you did?
I'm Taneisha Duggan. I'm Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment for the City of Hartford. I would be remiss in not saying that the last time I was in this room was as a theater camp counselor inside of the Matatuck. So it's very cool to be in this room with you all, thinking about the future of our state. And the last creative thing I saw was last Saturday, Hartford's Got Talent, which is a nonprofit that focuses on Hartford region artists. They both sort of do this talent showcase. They choose a winner. But the greatest thing about Hartford's Got Talent is that they continue talent representation beyond the showcase. And so you can go to hartfordtalent.com and find singers and dancers and things you need for your activities. And that was really exciting to see this sort of long relationship with creative practitioners.
Lisa Scails.
Hi, I'm Lisa Scails. I'm the Executive Director for the Cultural Alliance of Western Connecticut. And I can't remember the last time I saw or experienced anything creative. I don't always get to eat the donuts, you know. I work 12-hour days. Are you kidding me? Go see a theater performance? I mean, when do I get to do that? Actually, the last time I was able to do that was about 3 months ago in Norwalk. It was a production by Throne Stone Theater, and it was lovely. It was an original play. But if I could widen the scope about on that answer a little bit, I was also recently just in Britain for a cultural district tour, which I hope to get to talk about more later. And that in and of itself was creative. So I want to put that on the map.
Bruce Flax.
Thank you, and thanks, Michelle and the Main Street for having me today and getting me up to Waterbury. We, at the Mystic Chamber, we do 5 Things to Do in Mystic video, which we started in 2023. And we just say, hey, there's 5 things to do in Mystic, and we have a professional videographer who does them, and they pretty much caught on, and we get 25 to 65,000 views a weekend on those videos. But what we've been doing recently, on Monday, we were filming it at Nailed It in Stonington, and I got a pedicure while we were filming, and the catch is that we are including, Mystic as a tourist/business, and we're trying to get everybody involved. So while we're telling people what to do, we're also showcasing local businesses as well. So,
are you going to show us the pedicure?
Nobody wants to see the pedicure.
Anthony.
So my name is Anthony. Yes, that is my real name. Parents were sadistic people. I'm the chief marketing officer for the state. And so I feel like with this question, everybody expects me to say something about pizza, but I'm going to give you all a hard left turn. And so yesterday, we actually dropped a press release from the governor's office highlighting some new additions and more content and storytelling around the Connecticut Oyster Trail. So about a year ago, we launched the Connecticut Oyster Trail and an accompanying 10-minute documentary that was entered into a few different film festivals around the state and actually won some awards at these. So this release not only highlighted a new experience at an Airbnb in Stonington, where you can not only stay on the water at this Airbnb, but you can follow the farmers, the oyster farmers, who own the property, go out on a boat, lay seed with them, learn how oyster farming happens, and then actually go out, bring oysters in, shuck them, try them, and then go into restaurants in Mystic to be able to eat them. So you're really following from seed to food service and enjoying it in that way. So we put out these 3 new original videos which follow different oyster farmers as well as different chefs and how their love and passion that goes into not only raising the oysters, but how they get served, how they get cooked, if not raw.
So I like to set the stage. The overall themes of our panel are going to be about collaboration, intentionality, and storytelling, and also a little bit of how do we protect the creative economy in sort of a funding crisis that we find ourselves in. Just so you guys all are aware. And then when we flip this, we're going to flip the script at the end, and instead of you asking us questions, we're actually going to ask you guys questions, and we want to hear feedback from you. So I think, and I think these themes have been running at least through the first panel, and given who's on the next panel, and I've worked with Rista, who's well-deservedly working, and I think these themes also reflect why she was so successful and why she's getting the award. So I want to start first with collaboration, and I think something that we've talked about previously to this panel was really the big question that we all have in our busy lives as we try to run our small businesses or service orgs or downtowns or however, is how can we actually cultivate, I know that collaboration is strategically important, but I'm talking about tactics. How can we cultivate a process of collaboration, and how can we build those spaces so people can find the time to actually come together and solve problems through creativity and connection? And Lisa, I'm not going to pick on you, but I want to start with you. Just because of some of the things that you've been working on.
I think you're starting with me because I talk the most and you want to get me out of the way. But either way, I'm happy to start because what I want to focus on today is all around cultural districts. It's a statewide program through the Connecticut Office of the Arts, but us as the Cultural Alliance of Western Connecticut and other designated regional service organizations, and there's 8 of us around the state. And I know Steph Burr is here. Steph, raise your hand. She is representing her region as well that's in the room, and there may be others, and if there are, I'm sorry for not recognizing you, but please let yourself be known. We are partners with Connecticut Office of the Arts in helping to develop these cultural districts around the state. And I love them for 4 simple reasons. Number one, cross-sector collaboration, it's built in. It's a framework that helps to promote that. Number 2, it creates community hubs from an infrastructure point of view, both socially, of course, and physically. 3, strategic support. When you are organized and you have this cross-sector collaborative process going on to help build your community, your downtown, it tends to elevate the narrative and it invites investments. And there's just way more opportunity for creating place and bringing in resources to be able to help do that. So it's much more than branding. It's more about collective decision making, and really finding a way to leverage how you build your community around your businesses, artists, arts groups, cultural organizations, collectively creating a place. So I love it for that.
And then Bruce and Taneisha, I want to hear from sort of your points of view coming at it from a city or sort of region-specific kind of point of view. Maybe we'll start with Bruce and then Taneisha, and then Anthony, we're going to go back to ask you about how you think, as someone that has to serve the whole state, how these spaces will help you do your job and connect to the community.
Thanks. So there are, from the Chamber's perspective, social is super important. And if you're not, it sounds really basic, but if you're not getting on social and trying to cultivate that audience, it's something that you shouldn't leave on the table. And the collaborations, talking about even in Mystic, there's so many ways to go about it. You can encourage two businesses to collab together from completely different, sides, and put the information out there socially and collab with them. And then there's ways to bring everybody together and create. You can create events. You can create. You can even create like a reel where you encouraged several different businesses to come together to create that reel and get it out there, and then inviting others to collaborate with you when you're getting up on social is really important, and it's become very important for the Chamber and for the businesses, and they're seeking us to be able to latch on to the social that we have, and also setting the stage. So when you're going to do something, talking ahead of time with the businesses that you're involved with about that social and how you're going to collab and who's going to put the reel out, because you don't want multiple businesses putting the same information out. You'd rather have one and collab on it all. And there's many people in our world that don't understand some of that stuff. So it's super important to be educated on it.
I guess I want to first name that collaboration is really hard, right? That like true working together is not an easy thing to do. Strategic partnerships are easy to find because I think we're all really smart in sort of understanding what we need and how and what partners make sense to help us get there. But the real work, right, is the relationship building that allows us to like hear each other, hear our individual needs, and then go, what does that mean to you and your individual needs? And is there a consensus in the middle that serves all of us and the people that we're serving? So I just wanted to like name that first, which is like collaboration is like the big word, right? Is the huge word that we all like to use, but it's really, really stinking hard. I'm having a hard time collaborating in my own household. So like, 10-year-olds don't listen. But as it relates to the city of Hartford in particular, I think that's what my role is to try to find those synergies. And some of that in terms of tactics is like really sort of creating space for us to get together and talk about a big idea, not necessarily a particular event or a particular initiative, but to talk about the big ideas of our vision together and sort of work through that. Because I think some of just understanding, do we all have the same vision for this place? Can we come to agreement about what that vision might be? Is the beginnings of the kind of brainstormings that I think are the best when you go back to your own institutions or groups and go, this is what I think we want to do because now we're serving this collective vision. So tactics for me as a city official is to sort of find those opportunities to bring different sectors together around big vision.
Go ahead,
Lisa?
I just wanted to riff a little bit off of what you were saying because they are hard. And while I am a big fan of the cultural districts, it is but a powerful one way of collaborating because the infrastructure is sort of handed over to you. And so it provides that framework to be able to get different people at the table to do the hard work of having those conversations. But outside of that, there are other ways. One of which is also happens to be a state program that has been brought to the state maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, but it's the AIR Collaborative program. You can get people coming from very different backgrounds in a room, and within 2 days, they have built consensus around a project or a problem, consensus and a plan on how to address it and how to fund it. I mean, it's amazing, in 2 days. So that's another framework. And then besides that, I'm in a similar position with with my position, and that is, I find that I spend 95% of my time tactically helping stakeholders in our region to find the time to come to the table and build consensus around whatever their needs might be. 95% of my time is spent doing that. So,
And Anthony, from a statewide perspective, how can these sort of spaces or collaborations help you in telling the story about our communities?
Well, it makes our job 100% easier. There's no way around that. You know, when we have assets to market, it goes well beyond the ability to tell a good story. Because if something speaks for itself, that's just fantastic. I don't need to go out and spin a yarn and put lipstick on a pig, so to speak. You know, in this case, it's just a straight up value proposition. You know, when I think about brand, when I think about identity, and how we show that to the world. Like, you think of Nike. Nike's nothing more than rubber and leather or suede sewn together, but you're buying a hell of a lot more than just sneakers. You're buying a lifestyle. So in the case of having cultural districts or numerous assets to be able to go out and promote, when they're cool, they promote themselves. Like, I don't have to go out and tell the world that it's something that it's not. So I think that type of collaboration is critical. And in hearing everything that Taneisha and Lisa are saying, I think you got to start with the why. Find out where your missions and objectives overlap. Don't bullshit one another. Just be honest and communicate straightforward, because we all are going to have something that overlaps. And I have to say, and I say this to anybody I meet, whether there's media in the room or not, the whole 169 towns in Connecticut is our biggest hindrance. And I apologize to any of the town planners in the room. It's really a difficult thing. I'm not from Connecticut originally. I'm from Northern Virginia, where we had county governments. And this idea of individual towns was just so foreign to me. And I realized, because of all those individual identities, it often gets in the way of the collective mentality of the state, which, don't get me wrong, it has its tremendous benefits, but when we're already one of the smallest states in the country, with one of the smallest budgets in the country, but yet we still have millions of people living in this state, we have to get out of our own way in order to actually make progress.
I want to sort of riff on what you've said, Anthony, because I consider myself a child of the 80s. I don't know if you all remember United Colors of Benetton, but I bring up that company all the time because I think it's key to the sort of vision that I have as a person, which is that, like, you saw all of these people in all of these colors, and they were able to sort of hold on to their individual identities, but it was a cohesive story. And I remember being a kid, and a lot of the conversation was like, are we a melting pot or a quilt? Are we a melting pot or a quilt, right? And there's something about the quilt mentality, which allows each thread to be themselves, but it is a singular blanket that I think is so important, right? Like, as we get to the conversation around resources, this idea that, like, we're all better together. And I used to be an eye roller when that was a political statement a couple years ago. But now I'm like, oh, actually we are. And there are things that we need as a region that, if we are, as Anthony says, speaking to each other frankly and honestly about what the needs are, we might actually get to the next step.
Well said. Yeah, you're a lot more diplomatic about it than I am.
All right,
I grew up here, but I was born in Northern Virginia, so we're like opposites. It's good.
So here's a little audience participation. So this is my own personal, like, I'm keeping an unofficial running tally of this question. So I want a show of hands. You have 3 options. So raise your hand, 1. I'll call them out individually, so don't do it right now, but just so you know. 1, you grew up in Connecticut, but you left to either move to another state or go to school or go to work, and now you came back. 2, you're a transplant. You grew up in Virginia or New York City or whoever, and then and then you chose to move to Connecticut? Or 3, how many of you have never really left Connecticut other than on vacation? All right, so number 1, who's a returner? All right, who is a transplant? All right, who is, let's say, those who stayed? Oh, it's an interesting, usually when I ask this question in a room like this, it's mostly transplants or returners and not many. And so I'm very happy to see a good third of hands of those who stayed.
Can I jump in here on this? And actually, I want to bolt a supercharger on what Rufus is saying. So I'll tell you all a little story. I started working, I moved to Connecticut in 2021, early 2021 with my family. And so I worked for Governor Lamont the first couple years. And I had to live in a hotel the first couple weeks because the home we were buying wasn't ready. So I roll in on a Sunday night, getting ready for my Monday morning first day. And I'm walking with all my stuff. You know, I got bell carts full of crap. And I walk in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you moving in?" I'm like, "Yes." And they say, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "Virginia." And they said, "Why?" I was like, "Why? Okay, you're welcome to Connecticut." Then a couple weeks later, went to a doctor appointment, and the receptionist at the front desk, she goes, "Hey, welcome. You know, where are you coming from?" And I, same thing, Virginia. She goes, "Why?" So I've realized from that experience, but also traveling around the state with the governor, but now also in my current role and meeting so many wonderful businesses and town people working as public officials in towns and just kind of across the board. Connecticut is down on itself. I just don't understand why. So a lot of the work that I do in my role and trying to work with sister agencies in government and our municipal partners, it's a little bit less about just saying, "Hey, Connecticut's a great place to do fun shit." It's about saying, "Hey, be proud of your state. Be proud of where you're from. There is so much to be proud of here," whether it's what we make, physically what we make, the communities that we all call home, the safety, the great schools. There's just so much we're doing. So it's all about culture change. And that's the heart and beating soul of what it is we're trying to do. And credit where credit's due to everybody. We are seeing some changes in these numbers. In just the last year, my office has been doing this study well before I got there, started in 2012, but we measure state pride, and that's up 25% year over year. It's at an all-time high since 2012. It's 61%. Meanwhile, the 12-year average is 45%. And then also net promoter scores are up as well. So Connecticut as a place to live is up 144% year over year. Connecticut as a place to work is up 107% year over year. And Connecticut as a place to visit is up 177% year over year. So I think that we are kind of slowly but surely getting the belief and the message straight. But now it's like, how do we internalize it? And we each continue to communicate that to not just residents, but business and potential visitors.
You know what, Anthony? I'm in the third of have never left. And it's about perspective, because I do wonder, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it perhaps is, are we getting down on our, I think there's a lot of pride here in Connecticut. But I think it might be more community pride. Like, we're proud of our immediate towns and cities in which we live. And sometimes that pride can get in our way in terms of collaborating, building relationships. So from my perspective, I feel like it could be more that, because Connecticut is also known for its pride, its Yankee pride. So, but maybe not from a statewide perspective. Maybe it's just more in the bedroom communities and areas in which we all live. But there's a direct correlation with that and this idea of isolated thinking. And in terms of, I just had this conversation, I have it every day, about how busy we all are. And we are all so busy. Yeah, but does it count? Where's the impact? Where are we, leveraging? If everybody's so busy, are we just passing each other? And we're just so busy for the sake of being busy because we've got our long laundry list of things to get done. At what point do we actually pick up our heads and figure out, well, who's also doing this? We're the like minds. How can we do this better?
Yeah, that talking about tactics and collaboration, that intentionality has to be there. That's become my new mantra for 2025 is intentional. Just have intention and recognize that.
Yeah, and I think you guys have asked, I didn't even have to ask the questions. This is how good the panel is. Because I was actually going to ask Anthony, because I've heard him tell that story, and that's where I was, like, he read my mind. I think this intentionality is important, and it's like, I think Taneisha, in our lead up to this, you had used the phrase, how can we become a visitor in our own space? And I wonder if we can like talk a little bit, especially Bruce and Taneisha maybe, how do you bring this intentionality of placemaking, of storytelling for Mystic or for Hartford, and like, I really like this idea of the frame of being a visitor in your own place. And I want, if you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly magic in this room, and thinking about the way that the demographics of this room is broken up, that it has all three of these constituencies in it. And so sort of the intentionality of how you all engage with each other today, and asking, using this prompt to ask the question of, why did you never leave? There's got to be some pride in place for you to have stayed here your whole life. Why'd you leave and come back? Right? What was that about? What made you come here from the first place, which I think is the core of the question that folks were asking you. And I think that, I'm going to charge you with those questions today, because I think that intentionality of asking and then receiving the answer can start to seed in you, like, what does it look like to be a visitor here? To your point, Lisa, like, what is it like for me, who's a Central Connecticut girl, grew up in Middletown, Greater Hartford region is my region, but I love a trip to Stonington, and I am totally a visitor when I go down to the sort of coastal part of Connecticut, right? I can't wait, because I'm an oyster girly too, to like experience that trip, right? I take my kids to the glamping places in Central Connecticut. So I think the sort of intentionality of us going out into our state and really understanding what it's like to be a stranger in a place that is your state, I think is really useful to you when you come back to your own places, to be like, oh, that hit. Oh, that was hard to get around. One of my most magical Christmas memories was doing the Coventry 12 Days of Christmas scavenger hunt. It was magical. I mean, first of all, Coventry in wintertime is beautiful, right? You've got the covered bridges and and they built this scavenger hunt so it was walkable to all of these businesses, and engaged individual artists from the area and not from the area. So we were able to learn about amazing artists who live in Connecticut, amazing artists who have summer homes in Connecticut, and amazing artists that they found whose art just happened to be in Connecticut. So I very much believe in this sort of act like a visitor in the place that you love, for many reasons. One, for research. Two, just so you can enjoy yourself. And in this time that we're living in, where we know our constituents are tight on cash, thinking about what it's like to be a visitor in your own city, region, town is going to be really meaningful to those of us who live here, but also to the economic stability of all of our areas.
Yeah, I was a transplant, but I'm never going to leave. We've landed in Mystic, and it's where we want to be. And I think my kids who were born here, I think the majority of them are going to stay here. And if they go out, they're going to come back. We love Connecticut, and I think that the beauty of it is that from a talking to people's standpoint is, who do you talk to, and who maybe you should be talking to, and how do you expand yourselves to expand it for everybody? Because when you have a conversation with somebody, at times with somebody you don't know, then that expands their world as well. And there's a lot of ways to learn. And so from the chamber standpoint, the first question we ask is, what can we do for you? How can we help you? If we have a program, a sponsorship program, and you don't see what you want, tell us what you want, and we'll try to create it or figure it out for you. And I think more open thinking and trying to figure out, based on audiences, what they need can help in getting things done.
I want to. All right, so this is another audience thing. I want you, because I'm getting the 10-minute sign. I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is events. And there's this idea, and I've seen this a lot in communities, a lot in my work. I know we've talked about it. I know we were talking about it here. That is like, if you build it, they will come. So if we host a town event, people will come. If we sign up for Civic Lift and have this amazing calendar that's like keyed into our town and our RSOs, like, it's just going to magically mean more feet on the street. And like, that's not actually the reality, as we all know. Like, there has to be intentionality behind this. So during the Q&A, I mean, if you really need to ask us a burning question, sure, but I want to hear from you guys, like, what's worked in your community? How have you taken these three threads, this idea of collaboration, intentionality, and storytelling, and like made something really work on the ground, tactically work? And I'm opening it up to the four of you as well, as like, how can we sort of make people realize, like, it's not 1992 anymore. Like, you can't just put something on a website and because it's there, people are going to find it. Like, we live in what's called the enshittification of the internet. Like, it's mostly AI bots talking to other AI bots at this time. So, like, really thinking through collaboration, intentionality, storytelling, what has worked in your communities to get feet on the street, and what's worked on your communities? I
want to pick on Bethel. Bethel, I know you're in the room. One of my constituencies, you guys have a great story to tell.
You're getting called out, Bethel.
I missed what you said. Lisa, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, you guys have a great story to tell in terms of collaboration, intentionality, and storytelling, all of the great work that you've been doing there.
Yeah, so I'm Janice Christianic. I'm the Economic Development Director from Bethel. I started my position probably 11 years ago, and I was the first one, and it was a part-time position. But I think what we did, to Lisa's point, was we really looked at what people were doing in the town and what were we missing. And in arts, since we're talking about arts was a huge part of it. We didn't have any active arts organizations, nonprofit commissions. We didn't have anything. And so what we did was we created a nonprofit called Bethel Arts. And really that was the start of looking at arts in our community and how it impacts economic development. And I still fight the fight, talking about how important arts is to economic development, but we've really come a long way in probably about 8 years. We're also looking to be a cultural destination. We don't have tons of cultural assets. I think our biggest assets are our people. We have a lot of great artists. We've got a lot of great people. But incorporating arts into our economic development plans was really the start of a lot of other things that kind of happened after that. We saw businesses that were actively incorporating arts into their plans, their business plans. We've had outdoor sculpture exhibits. So the arts has been an incredible asset to us. And we're continuing to build on that today. So thanks, Lisa, for the shout out.
I love that story because it sort of begins to set the seeds for art beyond what we know art to be, which is installations, performances, so on and so forth. My background is in theater, so to me, I'm like, art is the set design of our lives. And so you say, we don't have a lot of assets, but you have buildings, right? And as city planners, as we begin to think about those buildings as set design and the background to your events, if those things aren't hitting, it's really hard for an event to overcome the architectural design that they're placed inside of. And so it's those kinds of collaborations that are bigger than just, we have an idea to bring a Ferris wheel into town, and what is the best location in town that looks like the thing we want to tell our story about, right? Because the story begins, which is why I love being here at this conference, on the street as we're talking to humans. And hearing you talk about the shitification, I had never heard that before, of the of sort of social media and the internet made me go, oh, we're not actually engaging with each other in person or on the internet anymore. And so the power we have to both set the scene for human-to-human interactions and then create opportunities together to sort of deepen those relationships is really astounding. And I can't wait to see and hear what other things you guys are cooking up across sectors in your areas.
And I will just say that, you know, we're $13.2 billion of the state's economy. We're 4% of the GDP. We employ 54,000 people in this state. This is the whole creative economy as a whole. But we don't have, like, there's a manufacturing czar. We don't have an arts czar. We have the Office of the Arts, and it's nice that they're within the Department of Economic and Community Development.
We fought for that.
But we fought for that, and we don't even have that at the national level, where we're bigger than transportation, we're bigger than construction, we're bigger in some states than even manufacturing, but people think of the arts as a nice to have. And so my ask to you as city planners, as members of the EDC, is how many artists or creative businesses are on at the table at your EDC? How many artists or creative people are at the table and part of the board for your development corporation, for your downtown or your Main Street program? If I had to guess, it's probably zero, because in my experience, I had to fight to get on those seats because people were like, oh, you're an artist. What do you know about economic and community development? And I'm like, a lot, actually. Arts is an accelerator. We enhance not only the community and or the economic development. $1 of arts investment equals $7 of direct economic return that year, not like 20 years from now, like that fiscal year. We also enhance every single metric of social indicators of health in a community. We enhance civic engagement. To your point, it's not people talking to people on your town's really toxic Facebook page that a group of like busybodies run with an iron fist. We put people in contact with each other, rubbing shoulders, talking to each other in these spaces where not like commerce is not necessarily, it's the third space idea. So like, this is the challenge. You have to go back to your communities and like, how can you be intentional about recognizing who's doing creative work in your business or in your community and put them on these boards?
I want to help just super quick and just add to it. I think we've done a bad job inside of the arts community of speaking of creative sector as very specific things. Your architect is a creative person. The people who, your forester is a creative person. The people who are running your parks are creative people. They are setting the scene for your lives. I think so often we separate, this is a dancer, this is a painter, this is a sculptor. We're talking really narrowly about the kind of work that is creative work. And I think we need to think much more macro about the polymaths that we're asking to do the things that really change things. Just to add, I think we've done a bad job of advertising what the creative sector is, not including these very consequential things that you guys do every day. The people who make the signs that go up in your town, it is a creative pursuit. It is telling the story of who you are. It is not just words on a board, right? If they look and feel sexy or look and feel like a certain time you're trying to speak to, that is how we as visitors engage with your place. All of those things need to have creative thought processes beyond how cheap can we make it and how fast.
I just want to, because I know we have to go, but 2 points. One, I still think an artist needs to be at the table. But you're right, the creative economy.
Like, as a human being, you're an artist.
Well, here's my point. For the redevelopment programs that are going on in cities and towns for sidewalks, an artist should be at that table, because I guarantee you that project will look different if that artist and that particular creative mind is at that table. That's my only point there. The other point related to that is, again, about intentionality and collaboration. Dive deeper with that thought process. Art siloed and thought of on a shelf separate from all of these other activities that are going on in our towns and downtowns, we're missing something. We're not leveraging that creative talent in a way that I think is crucial. Here's why. We're reminded over and over again in studies, AEP studies, I got our numbers too for Western Connecticut, how many people that have visited and spent money with arts and cultural programming. The numbers are high. The numbers are also high on how many would have gone to a different place if it wasn't here. My point is that we often forget that people love being in places that are vibrant. Anthony knows this very well. We all do. We forget this, though, somehow, when we, in other sectors, or even in our own sector, where we're not asking to be in the room for what might be a different kind of conversation. It might be a transportation conversation. Get an artist in a room or a creative thinker in the room. I guarantee you that project will look different. And finally, the reason for that is I'm also part of Sustainable CT for the city of Danbury, and we're just getting started. We just held a walk audit. We partnered with the university to get that done with a bunch of brilliant students. The entire conversation with the community, is, where is the vibrancy? The entire conversation. Where is it? It's fine. We've got great restaurants. Danbury's got 60 languages in its community. The diversity is its asset for sure. But when people get down there, people have said in that session, when I come down here, what is there to keep me here? I don't see anything. There's no color. There's no visible art. There's no music. There's no, in that, so we can't forget that. And there's there are really interesting and engaging ways to be able to incorporate creativity and vibrancy in projects like transportation projects and redevelopment projects, is all I'm saying. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, thank you to the panel, and thank you all, and feel free to grab us during lunch to talk. If I'm still going to be around, most of us are going to be here, and we're happy to discuss. Thank you so much.
Thank you.